A very good morning, students. Let us study chapter 3 from History, Ancient Civilizations of India. In this chapter, you are going to learn ancient civilization of India, first urbanization, special features of the cities, town planning, lifestyle and the decline of towns, the development of Vedas, types of Vedas and Vedic period. First, let us study when nomadic life became stable. Here, archaeologists have come across signs of huts and houses in some places. Who have come across the huts as well as houses? That is the archaeologist, that is signs or symbols. And they have excavated means found a cellar in Bazhaum in Kashmir. Cellar means a room or set of rooms below the ground floor of a building. And people of those times used to dig shallow pits in the soil and live in them. How did the people live? People used to dig shallow pits in the soil and live in them, and there were steps leading to the pits. How was the pits leading? With the steps. They were built. These were built in this manner in order to provide protection. Why it was built in this manner? To provide protection from cold weather and wild animals. And also can be found, what we can find there? Earthen pots found inside as well as outside such pits. In accordance to weather condition, people cooked food either inside or outside. There is a site named Mehegar near the fertile plain of Bolan Pass which leads to Iran. And the people of Mehegar were the first ones to have learned the civilization. Who were the first ones to learn the civilizations? Learn the cultivations. That is, the people of Mehegar learned the cultivation of growing barley and wheat crops and rearing of goat as well as sheep. This is the first village that has come across or come to our notice, and people of Mehegar lived in houses. Where did they live? They lived in houses, and some houses had 4 or more rooms. And many sites have been discovered here which not only have the fossils of animals, fossils means the remains of animals, but also the graves. And people, animals used to be buried together here. Both were buried together there. And the first urbanization, the ancient sites of Harappa were discovered by the engineers. Who discovered the ancient sites of Harappa? Engineers discovered. How did they discover? When the railway lines were being laid 150 years ago. How long? 150 years ago, when they were laying the railway lines in the Sindhu Valley region of Punjab. They thought that it was a mound. What did they think first? It was a mound made of excellent bricks. They utilized or used the bricks for the construction of railway lines. What did they do with that? They constructed the railway lines. In this way, many houses which had been buried under the soil. In this way, many houses which were buried under the soil were destroyed. Why? Why it was destroyed? They used the bricks for the construction of railway lines. Archaeologists took up research in this area, and later they studied about that area and they convinced that it was an ancient city, and they came to a conclusion that it was an ancient city, and the sites around this city resembled the sites discovered earlier. They were called the Harappan civilization. So which civilization was found here earlier? The Harappan civilization, and these cities are said to be 4,600 years old. How old it is? These cities were older, 4,600 years old. Now let us study the significance and the importance of cities. We can see 2 or more parts in the cities of Harappa. So how many cities we can see? Or parts we can see of Harappa? 2 or more parts, cities in cities of Harappa. And the western part is narrow and at the elevated place. How the western part it is located? The western part is narrow and at an elevated place. Elevated place means place higher than the surrounding area. Archaeologists are often the view that this was a citadel. So archaeologists viewed that this was a citadel, and the eastern part is wide and at a lower level. How the eastern part is situated? It is wide and at a lower level. This area has been called the lower town. Which area is called as a lower town, children? The eastern part is called as a lower town. Every part had a wall made of burnt bricks. Every part had a made up of what? Burnt bricks. And since the bricks around them were placed in the interlocking manner, the walls were very strong. So, why the walls were very strong? Because the bricks around them were placed in an interlocking manner. So, the walls were very strong. And there were noteworthy buildings inside the citadel. So, there were noteworthy buildings inside the citadel. And Mohenjo-daro, one of the cities, had a water tank. Which city has a water tank? Mohenjo-daro. Scholars have called this as a bath tank. So, water tank, Mohenjo-daro's water tank was called as the bath tank. It is built of brick so as to prevent the seepage of water from the tank. So, seepage means a process in which liquid flows slowly out of a hole. The bath has steps on either sides. The bath had steps on either sides to go down, and has rooms all around. The water was probably supplied to the tank by a well, and used water was let out. Whatever water was used was let out. Important people used to take bath in this pool, and especially on special occasions. And fire altars have been discovered in other cities like Kalibang and Lothal. Mohenjo-daro, Harappa and Lothal had constructed systematic granaries. Now let us study the town planning. The lower town in the low-lying area of the city was a place of habitation of the people. So, which was a place for the habitation of the people? The lower town in the low-lying area of the city was a habitation. Habitation means the fact of living in a particular place. It was constructed in a very methodical manner. It was constructed done according to a systematic or established procedure. In a manner, systematically laid out houses, roads and drains can be seen. Drains were seen there. Almost every person lived in either one or two storied houses. So, in what type of houses they were living? One or two storied houses. The houses were built of what? Bricks, and had a strong walls. Houses had a strong walls and bricks. There were rooms all around the courtyard inside. The main door faced the street. The main door faced what? The street. None of the windows open onto the street, but the windows were not open to the streets. There were bathrooms in the houses, and some houses had wells which supplied water. Some houses had wells which supplied water, and cities had neatly laid out underground sewage system. See how the city is laid out? Underground sewage system. Drains were built of bricks and covered with stone slabs. You also make a stone slab near your houses, isn't it? Drainages like that. The gutter of each house was linked to main drain outside and enabled the flow of dirty water. And how did they did? They enabled the flow of dirty water from the house to the main drain. Holes were created in the drains to enable timely cleaning of them. So, like this, the town planning was established or planned. Now, let us study the town life. Apart from houses, precious stones, not only houses, there were precious stones and metals were found. Most of the objects found were beads and seals. What were found? Beads as well as seals. Seals means it is what seals carry the oldest writing in South Asia. The layout of the town reveals or shows the existence of administrative class. So, the layout of the town shows what? The existence of administrative class. The people of this place may have been expensive. The people of this place may have used expensive metals, gems and jewelry. They use very expensive metals as well as gems and jewelry. The beads were probably used by whom? By the common people. There is an unknown script on the seals. There were unknown script on the seals, and this reveals or shows that there was a no dearth of literate people. Dearth means an inadequate supply. This enabled the engraving of scripts on thousands of seals. And the people of Harappan culture had depended on what? Agriculture as well as trade. What did they depend? The agriculture as well as trade. Wheat, barley, pulses and mustards were their main crops. What were the main crops of the Harappan culture? Wheat, barley, pulses and mustard. They had learned to grow cotton and weave cloth. So they learned cotton also, grow cotton and to weave cloth. And we can say that they knew irrigation. They also know the irrigation facilities, since many towns were situated on the banks of the rivers. So why it was very easy for irrigation? Many towns were situated near the rivers. They had domesticated the humped bull. What did they do? They had domesticated the humped bull, cow, buffalo, sheep, goat, dog and hen, and were engaged in cattle rearing, sheep rearing and poultry. Not only domesticated all these animals, they also engaged in cattle rearing, sheep rearing and poultry. Oxen were used to carry heavy loads. Along with this, oxen were there. Oxen were used to carry heavy loads. Trade and commerce has assumed primary importance. Along with this, trade and commerce was given primary importance along with agriculture. The towns carried on business with rural areas like Balochistan, Saurashtra and Deccan, and these were the areas where the trade and commerce or business were taken place. The seals obtained at Mesopotamia established the fact that the Indus Valley civilization had trade relations. So the seal says that or obtained that the Mesopotamian civilization is the fact, it says the reality that the Indus Valley civilization had a trade relationship. Now the last part we shall study the decline of the towns. How did the town decline? The situation in these places began to change some 4,000 years ago. How did they change? From 4,000 years ago, and there were reasons. There were many reasons. Apart from that, natural reasons were one of the reason. The walls of Harappan fort were further strengthened. So the walls of Harappan fort was further still more strengthened, and towards the final days of this town, its west gate was closed completely. Towards the final days of this town, what happened? The west gate was completely closed. The spacious rooms of Mohenjo-daro became smaller. The spacious, which was large, rooms of Mohenjo-daro became smaller. Huge buildings turned into huts. Huge buildings turned into what? Huts. Neither the town planning nor the road planning was systematic at that time. So, road planning as well as town planning was not systematic during that period. And historians had given various explanations for the decline of these towns. So, the historians have given the various reasons or the explanation for the towns. Some feel the drained rivers as the reason. Some feel that the drained rivers was one of the reason, and others feel that changed course of rivers was the reason. The changed course of rivers was one of the reason. Other historians have means referred to as an evidence that the destruction of forest as a cause, and probably inundation of floods caused could be the reason. Inundation of floods could be also a reason. That is, inundation means an overwhelming abundance of people or a thing. And people living in Indus Valley and some sites of West Punjab might have deserted the area. might have deserted the area and migrated to new areas in the east and south. This also was one of the reason for the declination. And this civilization survived in Lothal town of Gujarat for some more years. Thus, Indus Valley civilization has remained an evidence of maturity of Indian civilization. Children, these were the main causes for the decline of the towns. In the next video, we shall study about the development of Vedic age as well as the other part like Rig Veda and post-Vedic period. Thank you.